Welcome back to Sense and Sensibility. Today, my friends in finance, let's talk about the richest man in China and why his pharmaceutical company dominates in China. Yet his company struggles to gain traction in America, the biggest healthcare market of them all. Zhang Shanshen founded Nongfu Springs in 1991, a huge bottled water company based in China that is worth around $73 billion. And he still owns the vast majority of the company to this day. However, he began to look for some other investments to diversify his portfolio. And the perfect company that came up was Beijing Wantai Biological Pharmacy Enterprise. It was founded in 1991 to develop diagnostic reagents and later started branching out into developing vaccines. After taking interest in the company, Shanshen acquired 95% of the company for around $2.5 million. The owners of Wantai sold out mainly because of a lack of funding and internal issues. Even though Zhang Shanshen did not have much experience or education in the field at all, especially because he dropped out of elementary school, he provided much needed capital and management support to Wantai to enable it to grow. So nowadays, Wantai manufactures diagnostic reagents and kits for diseases like HIV, hepatitis B and C, syphilis, tuberculosis, COVID-19, and many others, and is developing or producing vaccines for hepatitis E, HIV, and COVID-19. The company also went public in April of 2020 and skyrocketed in its first year, especially with demand increasing during COVID. This company has been very successful. Yet in America, and really the whole rest of the world outside of China, Wantai does very little business outside of China. In fact, Wantai does almost 90% of its business in China, even though estimates put China's revenue share of the overall biotechnology market at only around 5%. There are a few reasons for this, though. Maybe the most preventative in the short term is the approval processes set up by the FDA in America that are much more strict than the rules made by China's National Medical Products Administration. While this does ensure safety in America, it also results in a much longer and expensive process to get products approved that may lead to some vaccines and diagnostics never getting employed in the U.S. while they are being employed successfully in other nations. Meanwhile, China's approval process has a much shorter timeline that often requires a smaller sample size and has fewer audits, inspections, and reporting involved that leads to products getting developed and put in use faster, but with potentially fewer regulatory steps than in America. Additionally, America's healthcare system is notoriously complex, with insurers, hospitals, pharmacy benefit managers, and a whole host of other middlemen that, while useful, make everything in the healthcare industry much more complex, expensive, and harder to get to be an established player in the ecosystem. This impacts every company trying to develop new vaccines or diagnostics, because they have to build relations with a small group of close-knit companies that do not want anything to interrupt their high levels of profit. And with so many layers in between the patient and vaccine maker, there are so many ways a promising drug can get blocked at some level from being widespread. In addition to these reasons, the American healthcare system in its totality is a lot less organized and consolidated, with thousands of different hospitals using different standards and vaccines. Meanwhile, in China, a single government approval could result in a company's products being used by thousands of China's state-run hospitals. This means Wantai can more easily scale and sell their products in China, instead of trying to build and manage a sales force to sell to thousands of choosy hospitals in America that could be for-profit, not-for-profit, state-run, or using independent contracts, or being part of a group purchasing agreement. Finally, even though China's biotech market is a much smaller market than America in terms of revenue, it is still a huge industry worth many billions of dollars, and is growing fast. In fact, if Americans spent less money and paid prices more equal to that of other countries, China could quickly start to overtake America. China has around 36,000 hospitals, with a capacity of around 9 million hospital beds, compared to America's 6,000 hospitals and only 900,000 beds. So as China continues to grow and its citizens start spending more and more money on healthcare, China could someday have the potential to rival America in terms of both developmental prowess and market value. Plus, the development of new vaccines, diagnostics, and pharmaceuticals in general is already shifting towards China and away from America. So while Wantai might not have a large presence in America, its potential impact on the world continues to grow.
Thanks for watching. Remember, this isn't investment advice, just stuff you should know. Please like, share, and subscribe so that you and I can continue our investing journey together.